What is passion? An action, emotion, an idea? In the Scopes trial of 1925, true passion was expressed to the point where one man gave up his freedom and another man died fighting for something he truly believed in. Their passion was expressed in the trial that brought the controversial subject of evolution to local, national, and worldwide attention. From July 10th to July 25th, Dayton, Tennessee was put on the map. Ray County High School science teacher John T. Scopes was charged with violating state law for teaching Charles Darwin's theory of evolution in his classroom. Only 4 months prior, the Tennessee state legislature had just passed the Butler Act, declaring any doctrine denying the divine origin of man as taught by the Bible unlawful. The Butler Act brought into conflict the two theories of creation and highlighted the debate over the role of science and religion in the creation of man. Tennessee was the first U.S. state to prohibit the teaching of evolution in public schools and tax-supported universities. William Jennings Bryan led the prosecution as the lawyer for the state. Wildly popular, he ran for president 3 times and was favored by the people. Clarence Darrow, on the other hand, was the most famous defense lawyer in America, an outspoken agnostic and Scopes' lawyer. The Darrow-Bryan clash captivated worldwide attention. There were 500 people in the courtroom on the first day of trial alone. Any violation of the Butler Act was punishable by fine. Therefore, Scopes was put on trial, found guilty, and fined $100. But what really was on trial here? The lawbreaker or the law itself? Called the monkey trial because Darwin believed humans descended from monkeys, this case not only attracted the attention of local residents, but citizens around the world. John T. Scopes was a substitute teacher who risked his occupation, home, and freedom to challenge a law he strongly opposed. Also, William Jennings Bryan fought so incredibly hard to win this case that several weeks later he died from a fatal heart attack, which supposedly was caused by an overload of heavy foods and heavy stress. This man was so determined to reach his goal that it affected his health and eventually led to his death. These men embody true passion. They harbor such motivation, such drive, which is something we can all aspire to have. The outcome of the Scopes trial did by no means end this controversy. The case went all the way to the state Supreme Court, which upheld the law but decided that Scopes had been fined excessively. The law was repealed in 1967, but the debate of teaching evolution still exists in our country today. And to think, this nationwide controversy started right here in our state of Tennessee.
43 years after his death, Darwin was in the headlines all across America. They called it the Scopes Monkey Trial.
Dateline, Dayton, Tennessee, July 11th, 1925. In a moment, the story.
Young John Scopes was charged with teaching evolution in his public school classroom. Perennial presidential candidate William Jennings Bryan rose from his sickbed to rally the prosecution. Defending Scopes was the equally famous Clarence Darrow.
On the day of the trial, a full house of avid spectators from all over the nation filed in to hear the debate. The issue was no longer the innocence or guilt of Scopes, but rather the final death struggle between two basic human philosophies, fundamentalism versus modernism.
In the end, Scopes was found guilty and fined $100. The verdict was overturned on a technicality, but the law stayed on the books in Tennessee until 1967.
The Scopes trial was just as farcical as some of the trials today in which teachers are ordered not to teach the creation model. A teacher should be allowed to teach any and all perspectives of truth. It's been our experience that when we do that openly and fairly, creation wins hands down.
That people would prefer miracles to a simple natural law puzzles some researchers and angers others.
That 47% of the American population doesn't believe in evolution is a very frightening statistic. It's frightening from an educator's point of view because it denies the basic unifying principle of biology, which is, to paraphrase it, nothing in biology makes sense except from an evolutionary perspective.
Darwinism has more than its fair share of skepticism, and it's rather hard to see why that should be. Part of the problem is that people are simply ignorant of it. I mean, it's an astonishing thing, but it's true about our educational system, that we teach children just about everything except this really certain fact that we now know, which is why we exist. I believe that there is no other explanation for the kind of elegant, apparently design complexity that we call life, that indeed defines life.
Darwin was careful to suggest that a creator might have started the whole process, breathing life into the first organisms. But the simple fact is, God wasn't absolutely necessary in a Darwinian universe. Supernatural intervention was replaced by natural selection. It was perhaps a more logical world. It was certainly lonelier.
In the centuries prior to World War I, most Western nations thought of themselves as Christian nations. William Jennings Bryan, a leading American politician committed to promoting Christianity in the public square, was deeply troubled by the war. When he learned that evolutionary thinking had played a major role in leading Germany into war, Bryan turned his energies to oppose the teaching of evolution of man in America. He traveled widely, warning about the dangers of teaching human origins contrary to the Bible. In response, Tennessee enacted a law making it illegal to teach that man has descended from a lower order of animals. But the ACLU was ready. It offered to defend any teacher willing to test the new law. And John T. Scopes, a young teacher in Dayton, Tennessee, accepted the offer. When the town asked Bryan to defend the law, the famous lawyer Clarence Darrow offered to defend Scopes. The resulting trial took center stage in the hot summer of 1925. Before a worldwide audience, Darrow, a well-known agnostic, used the courtroom to attack Bryan's view of the Bible. In the end, the ACLU failed to overturn the law, but it set a precedent. The Bible had been ridiculed in open court. Several decades later, the movie Inherit the Wind deliberately twisted the events at Dayton to make a veiled political attack on McCarthyism. The movie portrayed Christians as closed-minded, ignorant bigots, suppressing the truth from children. Public opinion was swinging in America. Today, the situation from 1925 is completely reversed. In the schools, the evolution of man is taught as fact, and Christianity and the Bible have lost their place in the public square.